New images out of Kabul tonight of U.S. Marines and Army personnel feeding and facilitating the evacuation of Afghan refugees. And as paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division arrive in Kabul, there are now more than 5,200 U.S. troops on the ground there. Let's bring in tonight's Bream team to discuss all things Afghanistan. Former foreign policy advisor to the Obama campaign, David Tafuri. Former Army Special Ops intelligence analyst, Brett Velikovich, who served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the host of Lara Logan Has No Agenda, with a new season premiering this Sunday, 10 p.m. right here on the Fox News channel. Lara Logan, welcome to all of you. I want to start with this. Tom Cotton, the senator, Republican, has served in uniform himself. This is his concern tonight.
If our government can't even say how many American citizens we have, what's going to stop Joe Biden from rolling up things and flying out on August 31st with thousands of American citizens left behind?
Wall Street Journal opinion piece estimates it this way: the return of America held hostage. They say some 15,000 U.S. citizens and residents are behind Taliban lines. There is no easy way to get them out. Brett, you've served in the region. What in the world do we do now?
Well, we do the exact opposite of what the Biden administration is doing, is that can actually apply some critical thinking to this. I mean, the way this whole operation was botched from the get-go, I have absolutely no confidence in the upper echelons of the Biden administration to respond rapidly to what has become this major humanitarian crisis. And what's happening right now is just absolutely disgraceful. It's embarrassing to other veterans like myself who have served overseas and in Afghanistan. And the administration is being just dishonest. We are a superpower. We need to act like one. I don't want to hear in these press conferences anymore that we don't have the capabilities to get Americans out. We absolutely have the capabilities. The upper echelons of the administration just don't have the will to do it, and they didn't plan accordingly beforehand like they were told to do, like other veterans like myself that were screaming at the top of our lungs saying that this would happen, and it's just a complete mess. And this whole Biden strategy of let's just whistle past this one and maybe if we go to bed early and wake up it'll all just disappear is just not the way to go about it.
I want to play a little bit more of what President Biden said when he was asked about kind of foreseeing what was to come. Here's what he said.
Back in July, you said a Taliban takeover was highly unlikely. Was the intelligence wrong, or did you downplay it?
There was no consensus. If you go back and look at the intelligence reports, they said that it was more likely to be sometime by the end of the year.
Lara, you know this region. You've covered it. What do you make of his assessment about what intel was saying, about what we should have anticipated with the Taliban in this space?
Well, it's just, it's a lie of such epic proportions that it's hard to really quantify it when you understand how these things work in real time. When the Taliban did this invasion, it didn't happen in 11 days. It took time to do it. It took time to move in their forces, to move in the weapons, to plan, to stage. Then they took strategic ground. They took, for example, the Spin Boldak border crossing, where they've had an unlimited and uninterrupted logistics chain and a supply chain. They, the Pakistanis helped them move fighters into the north to infiltrate from the north through Badakhshan. The United States was watching all of this happen in real time. And, even if you could suspend reality and say, okay, maybe they missed it somehow, which is, completely unrealistic. What then of the Pakistanis? Because Pakistan controls the Taliban. They control everything they do. They treat their wounded in their hospitals. The Pakistani leadership is based on Pakistani soil. The Taliban leadership is on Pakistani soil. The fighters came from Pakistan. Did you see in those photographs and in those videos, Shannon, the weapons these Taliban fighters are carrying? These are not the Taliban fighters with AK-47s who are just, sort of straggling across the border. They've got, they've got their fingers held in the disciplined way, where they're not on the trigger. I was there when, they would always have their fingers on the trigger. They weren't well trained the way they are now. So there are distinct differences here. There was 400,000 different signs and different ways in which the Pentagon would have and should have and did know that this was coming, which the NSA knew that it was coming. All of our other capabilities saw it. And by the way, you're negotiating with terrorists. Okay, these are terrorist organizations. They have never kept their word on anything. Why would anyone believe they have now? That is a political construct that was designed for convenience, to effect an outcome that the political powers wanted the American people to accept. It never had any credibility from the beginning, and that is where the buck really stops. And we also, we haven't asked the Pakistanis, if you were really blindsided by this, wouldn't you say to your ally in Pakistan, hey, you guys control these forces. You didn't tell us about this. You know, here's the sanctions that we're putting in place against Pakistan. And here's all the action that we're taking to change this course of action. Why does the U.S. have such a disastrous problem at Kabul airport? I'll tell you why. Because the U.S. forces are only controlling the airport itself. The Taliban has set up a perimeter around it, and they're controlling all the access to it. So where you see that shooting, that's where the Taliban is. And why do we only have one airport, one option? Because we gave up Bagram Air Base. We left it in the middle of the night without telling our Afghan allies, and we gave it up to the Taliban. And when you saw a whole bunch of provinces fall very quickly last weekend, a whole bunch of big cities, it's because Bagram Air Base is strategic ground that we should never have given up. But the Taliban demanded it, and the State Department approved it.
Yeah, and it certainly takes away, David, a very important option that we don't have anymore. Brett Baer tonight talking with John Kirby, Admiral John Kirby from over at the Pentagon, talking about us trying to have a relationship with or a conversation with the Taliban. Here's part of what he said.
Does the U.S. military consider the Taliban an enemy?
We are focused right now. The thing we're working against right now is time and space, and we want to get as many people out of Kabul as we can in as little amount of time as we can. There are no hostile interactions right now between American forces and the Taliban, and we want to keep it that way.
Okay, but there might be some hostile interactions involving people trying to get into the airport who are Americans. David Marshall Fox, he's quoted in the New York Post. He says that he's an American citizen who was over there. He says he went to the airport on Wednesday trying to get out. He says, for me to be 10 feet from U.S. Marines with my 3-year-old son and my U.S. passport and not being able to get to the airport, that's problematic. So, David, what do we do?
Well, when President Trump signed the deal to pull our troops out in February 2020, there was a lot of optimism about the Taliban. And I guess the Biden administration continued to be somewhat optimistic that the Taliban would follow that deal. But we see signs now that they're not going to follow that deal. Yes, they are allowing us to use the airport, and that's good, but they've made it difficult for people to get to the airport. And I think this is a harbinger of what's to come. And there are a lot of people, as the previous reporting suggested, who aren't able to make it to the airport. The U.S. has a really tough question now. Do we send out special forces to retrieve some of these Americans and rescue these Americans? So far, the U.S. is focused on just the people at the airport, and that is a really complex, challenging situation. And hats off to our military who've gone back in there to make this happen without a lot of planning. But the next question is, how do we deal with the Taliban to get the rest of the Americans out? And then what does the Taliban do next? They promised to have an inclusive government, but we should all be skeptical about whether they're going to really do that. They're filled with arrogance now over this situation and triumphant, and that's really risky for us.
Yeah, so Brett, this idea of us sending teams or forces out from that perimeter at the airport to go get people. I heard reporting today about other countries who are actually being given some access to go get their people. Others have people hiding in safe houses, looking to try to at some point make a run for it to the airport. What could U.S. forces do now that we've put them in a terrible position, sending them back into this?
Well, I do think we need to bring special operations in there and help get these guys out. I mean, the fact that we're negotiating with the Taliban for safe passage, I mean, what does all this come to? It's absolutely absurd. But the truth is the Taliban, they want Americans out, okay, so they can rule. The faster they get more Americans out, the faster they can instill their Sharia law, they can have their oppression and tyranny. And so they don't want to have American bombs being dropped in there. They want control over Afghanistan and control over the people. And so I think we should send special operations in there, maybe to take some of these smaller airports and release that bottleneck from Kabul and create these safe zones. And then, have the administration send a message to the Taliban that we're going to start putting bullets in heads if people do not, if they come after our special operations troops and they stop these Americans and allies from getting to safety. But I think something needs to be done, because just sitting back in Kabul, where this bottleneck is occurring with this humanitarian issue and Americans not being able to get through there, is a major problem, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, the president says we will not leave until we get every American out. We will all hold him to that and hope that this administration is very transparent about that as it plays out. Thank you all very much for your insights. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Shannon.